Welcome to Infinite Universe with interesting episode. Imagine being able to lift an ancient clay tablet and for the first time in thousands of years, uncover words written by a person from a forgotten world. No one has seen those words for 4,000 or even 5,000 years. The only person who saw them before was the one who wrote them. It makes you wonder if everything we've been told about the beginning of human civilization might be wrong. Around 6,000 years ago, something incredible happened in ancient Iraq. A mysterious civilization seemed to appear out of nowhere. It was like they skipped thousands of years of slow progress and suddenly started doing things no one had done before. Their tablets mention stars, moons, and symbols that seem to hint at advanced technology. Some symbols even look like modern wristwatches. And now, with the help of artificial intelligence, we are beginning to understand what they left behind, and it's even stranger than we imagined. This forgotten civilization challenges everything we thought we knew. The usual story says humans took a long time to go from hunting and gathering to building cities. But in Sumer, located between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, things were different. Almost overnight, villages grew into massive cities like Eridu, Uruk, and Ur. The people who lived there called themselves the Black-Headed Ones. Today, we call them the Sumerians. The Sumerians didn't build their world slowly like others. They invented writing, created complex laws, and understood astronomy way earlier than expected. Their material of choice was mud. But it wasn't just for building. They turned mud into baked bricks, made vessels and trade tokens, and most importantly, used it to write. They pressed wedge-shaped marks into clay, creating a system we call cuneiform. This allowed humans to record thoughts and ideas permanently for the first time. They didn't just record grain counts or taxes. They wrote down stories, laws, and poetry, some of which survived thousands of years. They even used a number system based on 60. This is why we have 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour. Even our 360-degree circles come from them. This kind of advanced thinking was written down in clay thousands of years ago. But the more researchers read these tablets, the stranger it all seemed. Hidden between records of barley and beer, there were notes about rituals, medicine, and astronomy that seemed way too advanced for their time. But here's the problem: reading cuneiform isn't easy. Some tablets have over 1,000 unique symbols. Each one can mean different things depending on how and where it's used. It could take a person an entire lifetime just to get good at reading them. Only a small group of experts had the skills to try. That all changed with the rise of artificial intelligence. In Munich, researchers began teaching AI to recognize broken pieces of clay tablets and piece them back together, like the world's hardest jigsaw puzzle. At first, AI could only match fragments. But it learned quickly. Soon, it could identify writing styles, different scribes, and texts written centuries apart. In 2023, universities in Tel Aviv and Ariel built an AI that could translate the language of many cuneiform tablets, called Akkadian, into English almost instantly. What used to take years could now be done in hours. It was like Google Translate for ancient history. This happened just in time. Archaeologists started discovering tablets in incredible condition. At a site called Kurd Kalston in northern Iraq, they found a group of tablets from around 1800 BCE. Experts believe these may have been copies of even older writings. At another site, Gersu, one of the earliest Sumerian cities, over 200 untouched tablets were discovered, along with 60 cylinder seals. These were stored in containers lined with bitumen, which protected them for thousands of years. Some of these tablets refer to events that happened long before they were written, giving us a window into the very beginning of Sumerian civilization. By 2025, tools developed at Würzburg University pushed translation even further. They could now catch idioms, technical terms, and hidden meanings that human experts had missed for decades. And what the tablets said was shocking. Those strange notes about the stars. They weren't just random thoughts. They included precise observations of the planets, solstices, and even a wobble in Earth's rotation called precession, something modern science only fully understood recently. The Sumerians, it seems, were tracking movements in the sky that take tens of thousands of years to observe. It didn't stop with astronomy. In medicine, They described antiseptics, how to treat injuries, and even ways to feel a person's pulse to diagnose illness. They kept family medical histories in ways that showed they understood inherited traits. That's something we didn't fully grasp until modern genetics. Then there's the most surprising part. Some tablets talk about using copper and iron containers filled with acidic liquids. They use words like current, spark, and glow. That sounds a lot like electricity. An artifact called the Baghdad battery, found much later, fits this description almost perfectly. Could the Sumerians have been experimenting with electricity thousands of years ago? Whether by accident or design, they documented processes that match what we understand about electricity today. And then things took an even darker turn. Some tablets talk about stones that burn the ground and poison the land. These stones were buried deep to keep them from harming people. Today, scientists talk about desert glass and fused quartz, formed under extreme heat. Some think these could be from meteor strikes. Others believe they might be linked to ancient weapons or lost technologies we can't yet explain. This is where myths and science start to blend. You've probably heard of the Annunaki. In old Sumerian myths, they were spiritual beings, judges of the cosmos. But modern theories, especially those from Zechariah Sitchin, describe them as ancient astronauts. According to him, the Annunaki came from a distant planet called Nibiru, over 400,000 years ago. Their mission? To mine Earth's gold. And to do it, they created humans as a workforce through genetic engineering. It sounds unbelievable. But AI is now uncovering strange technical language hidden within these old myths. The tablets mention energy vessels, divine codes, and sealed chambers filled with breathable air. Words that sound oddly scientific. Even the term mu, once thought to mean divine boat or chariot, now reveals details like airflow systems and protective coverings. Are these simply poetic images, or descriptions of ancient machines? The more we translate, the more the line between myth and technology begins to blur. And now let's talk about one of the most surprising claims of all, the story of human origins. The Sumerians didn't just suggest we came from nature. Their stories said humans were created on purpose. According to texts like the Atrahasis and Eridu Genesis, there was a rebellion in the heavens. The lesser gods, called the Igigi, were tired of doing hard labor. They revolted. In response, the higher gods, the Annunaki, needed a new workforce. Their solution? Create humans. They took clay and mixed it with something they called divine essence. The result was a new being called Adamu. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. It's strikingly similar to the biblical Adam. But the tablets go even further. The first humans didn't work out very well. They couldn't reproduce. They were weak and unintelligent. So the gods kept adjusting their design, trying to create a better version. Eventually, they succeeded. Now imagine all this information lying hidden in broken pieces of clay for thousands of years. And now, AI is reading those pieces, quickly and accurately. We're learning that our ancestors weren't just primitive villagers. They were thinkers, builders, scientists, and maybe even engineers of a kind of technology we still don't fully understand. So what does this all mean? Are these just stories and symbols, or are they memories of something real? Were the Sumerians preserving ancient knowledge, handed down from a time we've forgotten? Did they see things in the sky and understand the earth in ways we are only now beginning to rediscover? Thanks to artificial intelligence, we may soon have the answers. As more tablets are scanned, translated, and decoded, the mystery of Sumer gets deeper, more complex, and more exciting. We're no longer just guessing. We're finally hearing the voices of the past, clear and direct, telling us a story that's been buried for millennia. A story about who we were, who we are, and maybe even where we came from. And the story doesn't end there. As AI continues to scan thousands more tablets still resting in museums or buried under sand, new discoveries might change how we see the world completely. There could be mentions of forgotten civilizations even older than Sumer, ones that passed down knowledge in secret symbols. There could be tablets that speak of giant floods, sky chariots, or a universal language. What else are we about to uncover? Modern scientists now collaborate with AI developers and historians to compare these ancient records with our current understanding of physics, astronomy, and biology. In some cases, the data from the Sumerians lines up shockingly well with discoveries made only in the last few decades. This has led some researchers to ask, did they just guess these things, or did they know something we don't? Imagine finding a tablet that explains a concept like quantum mechanics or nuclear energy using poetic or symbolic language. What if a metaphor about fire from the sky is really a record of a forgotten event, something involving energy and destruction on a massive scale? These are the kinds of questions that keep historians and scientists awake at night. Then there's the question of influence. If the Sumerians had knowledge beyond their time, who gave it to them? Were they preserving teachings from a lost world? Did travelers from other places, maybe even other worlds, visit them and share their secrets? These questions sound like science fiction, but they're taken seriously by a growing number of researchers. There are even comparisons being made between ancient texts from different parts of the world: Egypt, India, Mesoamerica, all of which contain stories that echo those of Sumer, gods from the sky, advanced knowledge, great floods, and the creation of humanity through divine action. Could these be separate legends? Or are they fragmented memories of the same ancient truth? Whatever the answer, we are on the edge of a breakthrough. With every tablet AI reads, with every symbol it deciphers, we get a step closer to understanding our real past. It might not be the story we've been told in school. It might be bigger, older, and more astonishing than we ever imagined. And as AI keeps learning, it may help us unlock the secrets not just of the past, but of the universe itself. This journey into the world of the Sumerians is just the beginning. And the more we listen to their voices through the clay, the more we realize that their knowledge, their questions, and their vision of the cosmos might still shape our future. He said that the Annunaki came from a faraway planet that travels in a huge, looping path around the sun. This orbit takes 3,600 years to complete one full circle. According to him, the Annunaki first came to Earth about 450,000 years ago. Every time their planet, called Nibiru, passed close to Earth, it caused big changes, civilizations rising and falling. You might not believe this story, but it gets more interesting. Sumerian tablets actually describe huge disasters, massive floods, long droughts, and terrible climate events. They often connect these disasters with strange things in the sky, like red skies, rivers flowing backward, and stars that seemed to attack the land. So, were they talking about Nibiru? Or were they just describing natural disasters in a poetic way? AI has made things even more complicated because it's showing us that many of these ancient texts are not just wild stories, they could actually be survival guides. Let's look at another strange part of the Sumerian story, the Sumerian king list. This is a list of kings and how long they ruled. But the list doesn't start with normal reigns like 20 or 40 years. The first king, named Alyalim, is said to have ruled for 28,800 years. The second king, Dumusid, ruled for 36,000 years. Later kings ruled for hundreds of years, which is still unusual. Experts say these are just symbolic numbers meant to show that the kings were like gods. But others wonder if these kings were something else, maybe part human and part Annunaki. Archaeology adds more mystery. In Queen Puabi's tomb, which dates to around 2600 BC, a strange skull was found. It didn't look like it had been shaped or bound like in other ancient cultures. This skull was naturally long and narrow. That's not normal. Also, skeletons over 7 feet tall were found nearby. That's extremely rare, especially for people in ancient Sumer. Were they just rare cases, or were they evidence of something else? Ancient texts talk a lot about bloodlines. The Sumerians were focused on keeping their blood pure. They kept writing about something called the seed of Anu. They had strict marriage rules, special rituals, and laws all designed to protect this bloodline. They weren't the only ones. Egyptian pharaohs said they were descended from gods. Inca rulers said they came from the sun. Even Tibetan leaders like the Dalai Lama are believed to be divine reincarnations. But the Sumerians may have been the first to actually write these ideas down. The Sumerian language also makes things confusing. One word, like me, can mean a divine law, a cultural tradition, or even a real object. This leads to many different ways to understand their texts. Zechariah Sitchin, for example, believed that some tablets talked about powerful objects. He claimed that a tablet known as VA 243 was a star map. But that idea has been proven wrong. The tablet is actually just a dedication, not a map of the stars. Still, the Sumerians left more than just myths. They left serious warnings. These warnings weren't just about a single flood or one disaster. They talked about cycles, ages of growth followed by collapse, over and over again. These patterns were recorded in their star charts. AI is now comparing these ancient records with real historical events, like the 4.2 kilo-year drought. That drought caused many civilizations to fall. The Akkadian Empire collapsed. There were famines and people had to move to survive. Science confirms these events happened. But the Sumerians described them differently, with images like red skies, a black sun, and stars attacking the land. For a long time, people thought these descriptions were just poetry. But AI is now suggesting they might have been talking about real celestial events. Could the Sumerians have seen things in the sky that we've forgotten about on Earth? It gets even stranger. The Sumerians had a huge group of gods, not just the well-known Annunaki. When you look deeper, you find a whole pantheon of deities, each with their own role. They had gods for storms, healing, the moon, writing, and even different types of wind. Let's start with Enlil. He wasn't just a wind god. His story says he split heaven from earth. That made him one of the most powerful gods. He was so sacred that even other gods didn't look him in the face. He ruled from a grand temple in Nippur and had control over everything from farming to justice. Then there was Enki, the god of water, wisdom, and creation. He was like a clever inventor. He helped shape the world and gave humans intelligence and magic. His sister Gatamdug was a goddess of healing and fertility. She was often called upon during childbirth and sickness. She wasn't as famous as other gods, but she played an important role. Now comes Inanna, also known as Ishtar. She was the goddess of love, war, and ambition. Her symbol was an 8-pointed star. Her stories are wild. In one, she goes to the underworld to take control from her sister. She ends up dead, hanging on a hook, and is only brought back to life by trading her husband's life. Some believe this story represents the seasons, death in winter and rebirth in spring. Utu, or Shamash, was the sun god. He brought justice and light, revealing truth wherever he went. His sister Nanna, the moon goddess, was so important that the first known author in history, a woman named Enheduanna, was a priestess in her temple. She wrote hymns to Nanna, and her writings still survive today. That's a powerful legacy. Another little-known goddess was Ninmah. She was a scribe of the gods, a healer, and helped create humans. She kept records and was seen as the keeper of knowledge. Then we have the Sky Father, who was the ancestor of all. Sometimes shown as a bull, he represented strength and connection to the heavens. His partner, the Earth Mother Kai, helped give birth to life. Together, they had Enlil, and through this union, all life on Earth was said to have begun. Some think this was more than a story, it may have symbolized how all life is connected. There's also the tale of Anzu, a massive bird who stole the tablets of destiny from Enlil. These tablets weren't just symbols. They were objects of power. The story of getting them back was epic. Depending on the version, either Ninurta or Marduk defeated Anzu. By the time the Babylonians told their own version of these myths in a text called the Enuma Elish, the list of gods had grown to over 300. Researchers are still finding names of gods we barely know. Many tablets are sitting in museums, half translated. Every new discovery could reveal another forgotten god. Some scholars think there were even local gods tied to specific places, one for a spring, another for reeds, even for a single breeze. Each fragment could hold the story of a god we've never heard of. Understanding Sumerian myths is not easy. It's not like reading a normal book. Most of the tablets are broken or damaged. Scholars must piece stories together from parts found in different places and times. The writing system itself is very complicated. One syllable could be written in many ways. And with changes in language over time, from Sumerian to Akkadian to Babylonian, plus poetic style and hidden meanings, every translation is difficult. And for a long time, Western scholars ignored many of these gods. They thought they were just regional or unimportant. Even Inanna's story about going to the underworld wasn't fully understood until the 1900s. It took decades to figure it out. So now we must ask, were the Sumerians just telling stories? Or were they recording knowledge, scientific, cosmic, and maybe even otherworldly? What if the glowing jewels they described were real tools? What if the rods that sparked were early forms of technology? Could these stories hold pieces of truth we've forgotten or misunderstood? AI is helping us ask these questions again, using fresh eyes and faster tools. And as we translate more tablets, we might find that the past wasn't simple or primitive, but full of mystery, intelligence, and secrets still waiting to be uncovered. As AI continues to work on these ancient texts, we begin to understand that the Sumerians had a view of life that included both the natural and supernatural. They believed that everything was connected, from the stars in the sky to the rivers that flowed through their cities. This way of thinking helped them build societies with rules, education, and science that were ahead of their time. They didn't just wonder about where they came from. They tried to write it down, to make sense of it all, and to pass it on. And maybe, just maybe, they succeeded. Maybe those clay tablets aren't just pieces of old history. Maybe they are a map, a warning, or a gift meant for people far in the future, for us. The Sumerians didn't write for fun. They wrote to be remembered. And with the help of AI, we are finally listening to what they have to say. Their voice is reaching across thousands of years to speak to us now. We should listen carefully. Thanks for watching. Keep it and stay tuned. Like and subscribe our channel. Have a good day.